The Rangers' power play is an abomination, and Peter Laviolette refuses to make any changes. Let's talk about it.
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1283 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, and we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, doing something a little bit different here. We do this every so often, a special live edition of Locked On New York Rangers after a Ranger game. We tend to do these live shows anytime after we either get something awesome that happens or something terrible or embarrassing that happens. And I'll go ahead and let you guys figure out which is which in the case of tonight's episode here. But yeah, another just atrocious Ranger performance. You know, they sleepwalk through the first period like they've been doing all season. Their goalie keeps them in it for as long as he can. And then eventually, the Devils break through and the Rangers just never really had much of a response. And the bottom line, I want to kind of give you guys the concept behind this episode here, because it's going to be a very listener/viewer inclusive episode of Locked On New York Rangers. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. So here's what I was thinking. You watch this game today, and I'm disgusted just like the rest of you, although not surprised, probably like a lot of you as well, at what I'm seeing from the Rangers in this critical division matchup against the Devils here. Because this team has so many problems, so many underachieving players, that I'm not even going to try to tackle all of them in one episode. That's been the biggest challenge hosting this podcast this season, is knowing, like, am I being fair to every player on the New York Rangers? Am I treating everybody equally? Am I blaming this guy over here a little bit too much? Am I giving that guy over there a little bit too much of a free pass? I've been trying to keep it as balanced as I possibly can, but the bottom line, you guys watch this team just like I do, and you're very well aware of the fact that very few players on this team are giving you an honest effort on a game-by-game basis. Very few players on this team have even come close to living up to the expectations that we, the fans, had for them this season. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to break this episode down into just one topic. It's going to be the power play, the miserable power play that the Rangers have been putting forth for the last handful of games. I mean, honestly, at this point, it's really an entire season worth of bad power play is what we're talking about now. So I'm going to talk about that for a little while here. And then for the last half of this episode, give or take, the floor is yours. I want to hear from you guys in the live YouTube chat. You let me know how you're feeling. You let me know what you have to get off your chest, and if you got to call out this player, or you think this is bad, or Drury's a terrible GM, whatever you got to say, whatever you got to say to get it off your chest, you're more than welcome to do it. The one thing that I ask is please keep the YouTube comment section PG. That is quite important, and that's how we want to keep things. But other than that, like I said, the floor is yours. You guys have listened to me all season. I'm very, very appreciative of that. You'll never know how much it means. Now it's my turn. I'm going to listen to all of you. So we will get to that. But first, let's go ahead and kick off today's episode by talking about this just abysmal, embarrassing, sorry excuse for a power play that the Rangers continue to run on a game in and game out basis. I believe now the official number 2 for their last 43. Now, the Rangers only had 2 power play chances in today's game. But if you've watched this team on the man advantage recently, you'll probably agree that maybe, just maybe, that was a good thing. Who wants to watch this team on the power play any more than we're forced to? First of all, they've got almost no chance to score. I mean, that the proof is in the pudding with the 2 for 43 stat. But not only that, I mean, if in the rare instances that they actually play well and they've kind of got momentum a little bit, maybe they're swarming in the offensive zone, string 1 or 2 good shifts together, baby steps for this team. But anytime that happens, if they end up on the power play, all of that is going to get derailed in an instance, because not only will they not score, but there is a very, very good chance that they are going to give up some quality, grade A, shorthanded scoring opportunities to their opponent. They did that multiple times in this game today. No fewer than 3 golden scoring chances for the Devils on the 2 Ranger power plays, one of which they, of course, scored on to take a 2-0 lead at that point. But let's go ahead and break down everything that happened on these power plays. And then we're going to continue talking about this when I proposed the question to Peter Laviolette, who's not listening to this, but that's okay. Why do you refuse to try anything different when it comes to your top power play unit? Because that is getting to the point of lunacy at this point. They don't try anything different, but we will work our way there. Let's go ahead and start with the first power play here. And actually, I do want to make one more quick point here before we start breaking down, the nitty gritty, the play-by-play of the power plays. We talk about, or we joke about, but I don't even know if it's a joke anymore, the idea of the Rangers declining the penalty, which you can't actually do that. But you know what? Maybe for their next power play in their next game, when the Rangers go to the man advantage, just put 4 skaters out there. Go 4-on-4. Which I know you can't really do that, and I'm not really suggesting that. This is somewhat tongue-in-cheek. But honest to God, man, like, how could it go any worse than what we're seeing from the Rangers power play unit? Just go 4-on-4. Put 4 skaters on the ice, and then if there's a situation where you actually have a good offensive zone chance and you're swarming a little bit, maybe then send the 5th skater in there, see if he can do something. Or if the opposite happens, if your opponent breaks out and they go up the ice on a rush, you can then send out like an extra defenseman to get out there and try to break that up. I don't know, man. At a certain point, you're kind of just grasping at straws and looking to do anything different. And I know they can't really do that, and they're not going to do that, but food for thought at least. So the first power play. The Rangers, by the way, coming into this, down to number 27 in the league, which means only 5 teams in the entire NHL are worse on the power play than the New York Rangers. This team that had this lethal killer power play unit last season is now a complete shell of what it once was. And you've got, it's just the same stuff over and over again. To begin with, it's the same personnel, and you've got errant passes. You had Mika try to make a pass from the right side to the left side and basically just threw it out of the Devils zone back into the neutral zone. So that was very nice of Mika to do that for the Devils. You get Panarin making a pass across the ice to JT Miller. Miller looked like he was about to have a pretty good scoring chance here, but he kind of fumbled the pass. JT Miller, low-key, had a really rough game in this one. It just seemed like he couldn't handle the puck. Simple passes are just bouncing off of his stick, and he's not really fighting for the puck. He was one of several players that was responsible for the Devils' shorthanded goal in this game, but we will get there in just a little bit. Then, the best scoring chance on the power play for the Rangers belongs to none other than Jesper Bratt. The problem is he plays for the Devils and not the Rangers. They send a pass up the ice to Bratt. He's behind the entire defense. He's in one-on-one with Igor Shesterkin. Igor is able to fight it off and keep the game scoreless for the time being. And after that, same stuff as always. The top power play unit doesn't get it done. The second power play unit gets out there with like 25 or 30 seconds left. They don't have any time to even try anything. And you see where we end up. And it's just another wasted power play opportunity. Now, I will say, we had the Devils then scoring on their power play to make it 1-0. Took them about 4 seconds. And then right after that, we actually had one of the few good sequences of this game for the Rangers. I thought their response after the Devils went up 1-0 was pretty good. They had a really good offensive zone possession after that, swarming a little bit, a couple of scoring chances. In the few instances that the Rangers actually produce a quality scoring chance, Markstrom made some good saves in this game, that is for sure. But you have a situation here where on the power play, or going into the power play, you've got Lafreniere and Trocheck. There's a scrum in front of the Devils' net. They're whacking away and trying to stuff it home. And you get a situation where Trocheck is shoving and pushing and shoving the Devils. I think he was kind of matched up with Timo Meier, if I remember correctly. Lafreniere was in there too. And then you've got Mika Zibanejad miles away from all of this, just unengaged, just kind of skating on his own. And the bottom line, I don't care what the repercussions or the potential repercussions of this might have been had Mika jumped into the scrum. I don't care. At a certain point, you get to show some energy and some enthusiasm and go into battle with your teammates there. And it's not just this one isolated incident from Mika Zibanejad. He doesn't go anywhere near this stuff. If there's a scrum, he seems to try to do the bare basic minimum or get as far away from it as he can. And you just don't like seeing that. This is one of the guys that was supposed to lead this team. He's one of the guys that was in consideration to be the Ranger captain the last time they had a vacancy. It was Mika, Kreider, and Trouba. And as much as Trouba's play left something to be desired, looking back at it now, Trouba was far and away the best choice out of those three to be the next captain. And that's not to say Trouba was perfect, but imagine Mika or Kreider skating around with a C on their jersey right now. I don't want to imagine that. I'm sorry, I don't. Anyway, second power play. Rangers, so it's after this whole scrum here, and you've got a situation where 2 Devils players receive minors, and Vincent Trocheck receives a minor. So it's going to be 5-on-4. But obviously, with Trocheck in the penalty box, he's not available for this top power play unit. And as soon as I saw that, I said, I know what they're going to do. I know who's taking Vincent Trocheck's spot on this power play. It's going to be Chris Kreider. Because why would we reward a young player? Why would we have a young player try to give this team a little bit of a spark? We're just not going to do that. This is the Peter Laviolette-led New York Rangers, and you can't think outside the box. You can't try anything different. And so that meant that Chris Kreider was on the power play. Now, would it have made a big difference if they put like Hoffman or, I don't know, Perreault or Cooley? How has Cooley not been given really any chances at all this entire season on the top power play unit? The dude just won the Stephen McDonald Extra Effort Award. So we, the fans, all see the effort that this guy is putting in, but the coach apparently does not see it. And we just can't have him on the top power play unit. So no, they go with Kreider, and, you know, there might be some people that hear this and say, oh, come on, you know, you got to go with Kreider in that situation. You know, he's a guy that's a threat. He's a net front presence. He's this, he's that. Chris Kreider in his last 29 games has scored once on the power play. Once. In theory, yes. In theory, he's a net front presence. In theory, he's a player that can be quite useful on the power play. We've certainly seen it in the past. He's been an elite power play player in this league in other seasons, as recently as last season. No doubt about it. 100%. Not this year. And at a certain point, you have to try something different. But I keep saying that, and they just played the 75th game of the season, I think it was. They got 6 games left. They're not going to make any changes. They're just going to keep doing the same stuff. And this is where the Devils end up scoring their shorthanded goal that they got in this game. And that's killing the Rangers too. Not only are they not scoring, but they're bleeding all these scoring chances the other way and giving up all these shorthanded goals. You've got the puck behind the Devil net. JT Miller is there. Didn't really fight for the puck the way that he's certainly capable of. The Devils pass it up the ice. They make one short pass while they're shorthanded, the Devils. And just like that, they've got an uncontested 3-on-1 jailbreak going the other way. Adam Fox is the one guy back. He slides across the ice, takes himself out of the play. The Devils make a pass. They score. It's another shorthanded goal that the Rangers have allowed. And another situation where a Ranger defenseman goes sliding across the ice. I don't know where they caught that disease this year, where that's how they defend on like every rush. They basically just take themselves out of the play. Now, Adam Fox actually did take some responsibility for this after the game and put this goal on himself that, you know, he should have played it better. And yeah, I mean, it might be a case where he's just trying to do too much, but just take away the pass and let the goalie that you just made the highest paid goalie in the history of the universe, let him one-on-one with the shooter and let him hopefully, you know, make that save. And if not, I mean, I still don't think it's the wrong strategy. Even if the guy beats Igor one-on-one, I still think it's a better strategy to take the pass away, which I think most would probably agree. But we're going to keep going in just a second. I'm kind of just getting warmed up on this power play. I want to continue talking about that. And I can see there's definitely some comments, you know, flowing into the comment section on YouTube. We're going to get to those for sure. And we're going to do all of that in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NCAA tournament is here. We're into the Final Four, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who is cutting down the nets. You can pick your favorites. Obviously, we're getting toward the last parts of this tournament, but there are still a couple of different ways that you can get in on the action. Obviously, it's the 4 number 1 seeds that were left standing at the very end in the Final Four. And there's, like I said, no shortage of options when it comes to FanDuel. Plus, it's easy and fast. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly, no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. All right, big shout out to the everydayers as always for sticking with this nonsense, this just wonderful season that the Rangers are putting forth here. Thank you guys for sticking with this podcast. I know it has not been an easy or, frankly, a fun season either, but we're doing our best. We'll get through it together like we always do. We're Ranger fans, and we continue to watch this team because very clearly none of us know when to quit. But yeah, the power play. Let's keep going with this. You know, another thought that I had watching this game. 2 for 43. And you hear that and you think like, well, as bad as it clearly is, you can't go 2 for 43 unless you've been just very, very bad on the power play. I think that pretty much speaks for itself. But you probably would think like, well, there's probably some bad luck involved there if they hit the post a couple of times, or maybe there's a goalie that committed some highway robbery on them, or maybe that's happened a couple of times, or maybe there's some good passing and something just happens at the last second and the puck just doesn't end up in the net. There's none of that. This power play is every bit as bad as that 2 for 43 would suggest. There's no bad puck luck. There's not. I mean, Markstrom, again, he was good today, but there's not really that many incidents in this entire run here where you're seeing the Ranger power play, generate these amazing scoring chances and the goalie just, again, commits highway robbery. I don't remember a whole lot of that. Once in a while, sure, but that hasn't been like the story. They just can't get anything going. They just pass along the perimeter. Nobody's ever really moving. Nobody's ever really working. There's very little times where there's any chaos in front of the opponent's net. And you're playing the Devils here, man. This is a high-intensity rivalry game. Like that, this is the kind of game above all other games where you should be causing some havoc. Ruffling some feathers. Get into the crease and make some things happen. Try to get a dirty goal. Because you're not going to pass the puck into the net, I can tell you that. They don't even try things that they used to. I mean, granted, the Rangers were trying things early in the season that were not working on the power play. I don't even remember the last time Mika Zibanejad attempted a one-timer. And maybe that's for the better because it wasn't working very often. But you don't see that anymore. I mentioned Kreider a minute ago. When's the last time that he redirected a shot? Forget about scored on a redirection. When's the last time on the Ranger power play that he even redirected one? So they're not even trying things that they used to do. And as recently as last season, very clearly worked and worked very well and worked very often. There's no game plan. There's no battle plan when it comes to this Ranger power play other than just passing. And even that's a struggle. How many times, even in this game here today, simple passes that they're mishandling, or I mentioned earlier the pass that Mika made where he basically just fired it out of his own zone. And then, again, we talked about this, but there's a stat to go along with it this time. The Rangers bleed shorthanded scoring opportunities to their opponents. Because not only do they never score, in the last month, again, the 2 for 43, but also they've given up at least 3 shorthanded goals in that time. So they're actually getting outscored on their own power play. And this is not like a 2 or 3 game thing. This has gone on for a very long time now. And if you're Peter Laviolette, how do you at a certain point not try something different when it comes to this Ranger power play? How do you not shuffle the deck a little bit? How do you not give Will Cooley a chance? How do you not give Gabe Perreault a chance? We talked about, Perreault, I mean, he's young, obviously 19 years old, and I had reservations about him even coming to the Rangers, and I was hoping maybe he'd wait until next year to sign his ELC, but he's here. He's at your disposal. This team has been lacking a spark, lacking energy for the vast majority of this season. Maybe the kid can give it to you. What do you have to lose at this point? How much worse can it get? How bad? You get the feeling with Peter Laviolette that he would watch this top power play unit go 0 for 100 and he would not make any changes. Be the same 5 guys out there every single game. 0 for 150, same thing. 0 for 200, same thing. I don't know what it could possibly take at this point. I'm almost at the point where, like, in the next game, I still want the Rangers to win. I do, because I'm a Ranger fan and I don't know how to be anything else. I don't know how to do anything but root for this team to succeed and do well. But there's a part of me that doesn't want them to score on the power play in the next game, because say the next game, let's say they get like 4 power play chances, right? And they score on one of them, but other than that, it looks like pretty much the same that we've been seeing, right? So they go in for 4. Well, that just bought all these guys a reprieve that they don't deserve, because if they go 1 for 4 in the next game, that's still 3 for 47. And you're not going to be convinced that everything is fixed. But whatever small chance there is that Laviolette is going to shuffle the deck, if they score 1 power play goal, he's not going to do it. So the 1 power play goal might end up doing more harm than good if the Rangers actually score on the power play. Can he really go into the next game and just put the same 5 guys out there again after all of this today? He's been watching this veteran power play group all season just do absolutely nothing, just look completely inept, and he never changes it. How is he this blindly loyal to the group of guys on this team that have largely caused the problems this season? It's not been a good season for basically just about anybody on this Ranger team, but the main culprits, the players that tend to come under fire from this Ranger fan base, and I think rightfully so, tend to be the veterans, tend to be the guys that are out there on the top power play unit. These are the guys that decide on a game-by-game basis whether or not they feel like playing hockey, whether or not they're going to show up for this game, whether or not they're going to care enough to back check. And those are the guys that he keeps going to. Like, at a certain point, how do you not just, like, say, okay, enough of this nonsense already. Let's get the kids out there and let's try something different. Maybe they'll be hungry and maybe they'll make some things happen. He is blindly loyal to the players that have given him the least amount of effort this season of anybody on the roster. Really think about that. Really let that set in. And we've talked about this too. Peter Laviolette has plenty of faults. Plenty. Clearly, that's been showing this season. Loyalty is not one of them. And so that makes it even worse that some of these guys have quit on him when he's this blindly loyal to them game in and game out. But I've also come to the conclusion that there are only 6 players that are allowed to play on Peter Laviolette's top power play unit. You can't come to any other conclusion after watching this team all season. Those 6 players are Panarin, Mika, Kreider, JT Miller, Adam Fox, Vincent Trocheck. That's it. You could maybe say Lafreniere. Lafreniere at times this season was on the top power play unit, but I don't think he's been there since the JT Miller trade. And if he has, I mean, not very often, that's for sure. So you've basically got 6 guys for the 5 spots, and he's never going to give anybody else a chance. Like I said, wouldn't matter if they went 0 for 100 or 0 for 200. And I'm going to make one final plea here as far as the Ranger power play unit is concerned, as far as Peter Laviolette is concerned. And then, like I said, I'm going to turn things over to you guys because I can see we're up to like 50 comments in the comment section there. So that's awesome. Thank you guys for joining and contributing here. We're going to get to some of your thoughts and your questions and whatnot, as soon as this portion of the episode is over. But my final plea to Peter Laviolette, okay, fine. You're not going to do anything to the top power play unit. You keep throwing them out there night in and night out. You're going to keep giving them the first 1 minute and 35 seconds of every power play, leaving a grand total of 25 seconds for the second power play to come on and do something, which, I mean, good luck. Good luck to those guys. But if you're not going to change any of the units around, if those are the only 6 players that you're at all willing to use on that top power play unit, then let's at least do this. Simple suggestion. Can we have the second power play unit start the next man advantage? Is that so much to ask? Can we just throw those guys out there at the start of a power play? What could the Rangers' second power play unit do right now that could possibly be any worse than what we're getting from the top power play unit? Not score? Not score. Give up a shorthanded goal? Top power play unit's been doing plenty of that too. How could it possibly get any worse? Take a penalty themselves? We've seen the top power play unit do that. Nothing can make this man change the Ranger top power play unit. Nothing. He's not going to do it. It's unbelievable. In just a second, we're going to, again, it's time for you guys to talk. You've listened to me tonight. You've listened to me all season. And again, I do really, really appreciate that. Really means the world to me. There's plenty of places you can go for your Ranger news and Ranger takes and whatnot. And you guys come here and spend some time with me. So that's awesome. But it's your turn. It's your turn. We're going to the comment section next. Again, another reminder to please keep everything PG in said comment section. We're going to get to your comments, questions, and whatnot in just a second. All right, like I said, the floor is yours. Let's go to you guys here, and we'll start right here at the very top. And let's see. We're going to start with John Harmon, who I understand recently attended a game. He actually got to see the Rangers beat the Wild in overtime. So a rare win, and hopefully John had a nice night. John says, yeah, I mean, 0 goals scored at the Prudential this season. LOL, kind of just captures the season. Indeed, it does. I think they've been outscored now, I want to say 9-0 on the season. Is that right? At the Prudential Center. So it obviously has not been good. And I guess the silver lining here is they don't have to go back there again this season. Michael Mass says, I have nothing to say about this team. It needs a lot of moves this offseason for next year. Yeah, I think we're all kind of getting to that point where it's kind of hard to find the words. Even like talking about this with friends, with family members. My parents are big Ranger fans, or talking to you guys through the YouTube, it's hard to even know where to start. That's why I wanted to do this episode this way, because like which individual player am I going to criticize after that game? I know we did a little bit of it along the way there while talking about the power play, but the entire team is so bad. It's hard to narrow it down to like one or two. The NYR Nobody says, I want Chef Ramsay to tell this team how cooked they are. Well, maybe we can have Chef Ramsay on here as a guest, and he can do what he does on his show. What is his show? Hell's Kitchen or whatever? Is that still on TV? I don't know. He wouldn't be able to keep it PG, though. I don't think that would even be possible. Matt Petrus says, what a disgrace. No passion from any players. Someone needs to show emotion on ice and have some grit. At this point, the organization needs to be honest with the fans and clean house. I don't think you really have to clean house. I mean, there have to be some big changes to this team. And in a perfect world for me, and I'm sorry, I know all three of these players have their fans. They have their supporters. And in the case of the first two that I'll mention here, they've been Rangers forever, and they have had some great seasons, and they have had some big moments. But Chris Kreider, Mika Zibanejad, Keandre Miller, to me, those three need to be playing elsewhere next season. I know Mika's got the full no-move clause, so I guess I'll settle for 2 out of 3 if it comes down to that. Those guys are not doing anything to help this team. They're just not. See what else we got here. Henry Lout says, Tortorella for GM. No. Keep John Tortorella away from this team. Thank you very much. We got a Devils fan here. Devs fan 125 says, when will Lavi get fired? I don't know. Probably within like 24 hours or 36 hours of the season. I think somewhere in that general vicinity. It might not be like a firing as far as like the wording. You guys know what I'm talking about. How many times do we see this? I think it happened with Gallant too. It's not just the Rangers and it's not just hockey, but such and such team and such coach have agreed to mutually part ways. And that's just code for he's fired. And we might see something similar like that with Peter Laviolette. And Vitel says, Lavi said himself, Power Play 2 has been more effective and would be playing them more. What happened? 3 shorthanded goals in the last 5 games wasn't enough to make the change. Special teams cost them the game again. Yeah, I mean, he says that, but he didn't do anything any differently, at least not that I could tell. I mean, was their power play slightly up, the second power play unit? If it was, it couldn't have been by more than a couple of seconds. That really doesn't make a change. And obviously, they didn't start any of the power plays. So he didn't really do anything different. And yeah, it really is wild to see the Rangers go from being this elite special teams squad to just atrocious at it. I mean, and that penalty kill is slipped big time too. That kind of gets lost in all this because, you know, so many of us are so fixated on the power play and, now they're 2 for 35. Now they're 2 for 41. Now they're 2 for 43. Pretty soon they'll be 2 for 60. And that's obviously going to get a lot of the attention because of how bad they look. Plus, they're giving up all the shorties. But the penalty kill has been nothing to write home about recently either. That also has not been good. All right, I got to make sure there's no swears in this one. There is a swear, but he censored it himself, so I think we can do this. Robbie Neal Zucker says, John, this team is a something disgrace. There's an adjective there that I'm not going to say. Okay, they're embarrassing. They don't work hard. They have no heart. They don't play hard. They don't give you their bodies. They don't give their souls to the game. Yeah, no lies detected there, Robbie. I definitely do agree with all that. I mean, you'll get games where they give some effort and they give some heart every once in a while, but that's not the norm. You know, last year, a game like this last year would have been such a like fluke and like, what happened? What was that? It's fine. You know what? They'll get back at it in the next game. And this year, I mean, this is just par for the course. Waiting for this game to start, it was impossible to have a good feeling. And I'm somebody that tends to be glass half full, and some of you are as well. And you try to get into this team and you try to, you know, be excited about, we get to play today. It's a big game, division rival. It's hard to have a good feeling about this team right now. It's hard to go into like any game against any quality opponent, any even average team, and think like we're going to win this game and we're going to play well. And I don't know. See who else we got here. You know what? Jeff basically said what I just said here. I don't know how or why anyone was expecting anything different today. Like I said, it's very difficult to expect anything different at this point in the season. Let's see who else we got here. Well, there's a swear. We can't use that one. Again, please try to keep it PG in the comments section if you could, please. This is a family show. Blue Shirts 07 says, I'm so mad at Kreider and Mika. Yeah, I know. They're easy targets, but they've done it to themselves. I mean, they've had such lackluster seasons and so many games where it just feels like they're not giving you everything that they have. And if they are, that might be even worse. Where was Kreider today? Anybody see Chris Kreider? Tron Magnum says the team sucks. Can't wait for the season to be over. Yep. Agent Smith says Habs are about to lock up a playoff spot. No reason not to change up the power play. You know what? Let's see. I don't even know why I'm doing this to myself and to all of you as well, but I'm looking up the score right now because the Canadians, I think, are playing as we speak. And if I'm not mistaken, they're playing a pretty weak opponent. And yeah, they're beating the Flyers 3-1 with 3:34 to go. So that's quite likely going to be a win for the Montreal Canadiens. I guess it's not over yet, but the Rangers season just about is. So how about that? Let's see who we got out here. I want to give some love to try to get at least one comment from everybody here before we call it a night. John Lee says, I couldn't watch beyond the second period. I decided to watch the Yankees instead. Yeah, I'm a Yankee fan too, and I'm kind of like, I'm into the Yankees more than I thought I would be this season. And I think the reason is because of how bad the Rangers have been. I just want to feel something. I want to see, and the Yankees are 5-2. You know, they have some issues themselves, I think, but I don't know. I think when like one of your teams is bad, it kind of just even subconsciously makes you look forward to watching another one of your teams that much more. And you know, don't worry, I'm gonna ride out with the Rangers to the bitter end here. But I don't know. It doesn't feel like at this chance that anything is really gonna change. Let's see what else we got here. Ron says, never have I seen a team give up one on a penalty kill and turn right around and give up the shorty on the power play minutes later. Yeah, well, the 2024-2025 New York Rangers are a special bunch. That's my biggest takeaway from that. Let's see. Matt Brown says this franchise is cursed. Yeah, can you imagine how we would be feeling about this if they didn't win it in 94? At that point, I mean, we would legitimately believe that there is a curse on this team. See who else we got here. Robbie's going nuts in the comment section here. I love it. Dave E says, I just want this season to end. Yeah, I mean, I still enjoy watching these games, even when they're this bad. I mean, first of all, I've got the show here, and I get to talk to you guys about the Rangers, and that's one of the best parts, the most fun parts about this job. So there's that. But I love hockey, man. I love Ranger hockey, and even when the team is atrocious, I'll keep watching. But as far as like just like forget about the podcast for a minute. Speaking purely as a fan, I don't think I've ever had this little fun watching this team. They've had seasons that have been worse than this. They've had seasons where they've been a lot farther away from the playoffs than they are now, even after today and even after Montreal likely winning this game tonight. But I don't know that it's ever been this little fun to see this many players just collapse, just regress to an insane degree. And to see this many no-shows. Like, you go back to years ago, it was actually the first couple of years that this podcast started, and the Rangers are rebuilding, and they're young, and they're inexperienced, and they make a lot of mistakes. I remember, like, one thing I would always go off about back then, not to the same degree that I've gone off on the team this year, but one thing that would always kind of irk me was when they were rebuilding and Quinn was the coach, they would always take a penalty within the first 5 minutes of every game. And they've actually downgraded from there because now they don't necessarily take a penalty in the first 5 minutes, but they give up a goal in the first 5 minutes of every game, or at least that's what it seems like. But yeah, I mean, back then you could at least accept some of their shortcomings and some of the mistakes that they would make because they were so young, they were rebuilding. For at least one season, they were literally the youngest team in the league. It felt like everybody was like 23 years old. So at the time, you could at least accept some of that. You could accept some of the mistakes because, yeah, they struggled, and they obviously were not, a good team back then. but they were putting the pieces back together, and there was some upside, and there was some excitement, there was some buzz around the team. They'd have some exciting wins. They'd have some terrible losses too, but at least you could understand why there were so many ups and downs. This year, I mean, to say it's been a season of ups and downs, that's being generous. This is mostly been just a down season with a couple random spurts of good play here and there, but for the most part, it's been really bad. We got John Michael Fioravanti. I hope I'm saying that right. John Michael Fioravanti. If I'm coach, I'm playing Otter, Gabe in all situations and the most playing time, and let the vets sit and watch. Yeah, the one tricky thing there, I do agree with that, by the way, but the one tricky thing, and I've been there too, but the problem is that we always say, oh man, healthy scratch this guy, healthy scratch that guy, sit this guy on the bench, sit that guy on the bench. There's 23 players on the roster. There's only so many players that you can healthy scratch at the same time. And then once the game starts, I mean, you need everybody out there for the most part. You can only bench so many players. But I'm all for reducing the ice time of some of these veterans. I'm all for taking them off of the top power play unit, or in some cases, maybe removing them from the power play entirely. And I'm all for letting Othman and Perreault, and you could throw Brett Berard in there maybe too, get some run. These veteran players have had 75 games to figure it out. 76 games, I think. 76 games, I think it is now. And they haven't figured it out. Again, you get the odd, decent stretch of hockey every now and then. Early in 2025, they had that stretch where they went 7-0-3. They obviously started the season hot, but this has mostly been just a terrible season. And the guys that should get most of the blame don't get any of the blame from this coaching staff. So, yeah, I'm all for shaking things up big time in terms of who's on the power play, who's in the top six, who's getting the most ice time. That goes for the forwards, that goes for the defense, and that goes for everybody. Let's see. Who else we got here? Roderick Adam Ginsburg says, this reminds me of 99 when Gretzky retired in 99 and the season ends in a sad disgust. Yeah, I talked about this not too long ago, where that season, I mean, to begin with, it was a terrible season, but you also had Wayne Gretzky in what was his final season, and everybody knew it. Everybody knew that was going to be his final season. He announced that. And I remember, the season ends, and they had their last game of the season was at home, so at least Gretzky got that big moment, and he got to say goodbye to everybody, and the crowd is going nuts. Gretzky was only with the Rangers for 3 years, but the fans obviously really took to him. And I remember being so mad at the Rangers at that time. It's this team is so god-awful. If they could have just made the playoffs, at least that prolongs Gretzky's career a little bit longer. And that was at a time when more than half the teams in the NHL made the playoffs, and the Rangers couldn't even pull that off. So, yeah, I get that comparison for sure. Let's see. Jeff Lowy says, am I the only one who remembers Chris Knoblauch coming in from Hartford and feeling like the coach they needed? Yeah, I mean, hindsight's always 20/20, but Knoblauch, yeah, for anybody that doesn't remember this happened during the COVID year, or one of the COVID seasons, and essentially what happened, Quinn was still the coach at the time. Basically, the entire Ranger coaching staff all got COVID at the same time, so they had to quarantine, couldn't be around the team, couldn't obviously coach or anything. So the Rangers had to just throw together this just random group of people to coach the team. It was Chris Knoblauch was the head coach. He was coaching the Wolfpack at the time. Drury, I'm pretty sure, was one of the assistants. And I don't remember who the other assistant was. Gord Murphy, maybe? But whoever it was, bottom line, they had to go with random coaches. And yeah, the Rangers went 4-2. And in Knoblauch's first game that year, they beat the Flyers 9-0. Now, on one hand, you can't go too crazy about a 6-game sample size. But on the other hand, yeah, I mean, Knoblauch, if the Rangers wanted to make him their next head coach after they let go of David Quinn, I seriously doubt that Knoblauch would have said no. And they didn't do that. They went Peter Laviolette. Year one with Laviolette was great. The Rangers won a bunch of games. They had the best record in the league. They came pretty close to making it to the finals. Obviously, this year is a disaster. And Knoblauch, with the Edmonton Oilers, takes them to the Stanley Cup Finals and almost completed the reverse sweep against the Panthers. So, yeah, I mean, looking back on that, maybe that's a topic we'll dive into in in a future episode in greater detail. But man, it looks like the Rangers made a bad decision there. I mean, Knobloch, maybe he could have reached these guys, and he coached a lot of them, or at least a decent amount of them, with the Hartford Wolfpack. But then again, like, I say that, and it's like, well, would anything really be different? You know, because we've seen this Ranger team quit on all their coaches. We saw them quit on Quinn. We saw them quit on Gerard Gallant. We saw them quit on Peter Laviolette. And it seems like with every passing coach, it takes them less and less time to quit on the coach. So, yes, on paper right now, Knobloch would have been the better choice. And yeah, deep down, I would say he probably would have been the better choice regardless. But who's to say the Rangers don't quit on him in a season and a half, a season and a quarter? Because that's what they've done for the last three coaches they've had. And yeah, a lot of players have come and gone in that time, but there's a lot of guys that have been there for all three coaches, and they've quit on all of them. And Peter Laviolette is not blameless, but at the same time, you look at this pattern that's developed here, and it's like, well, they don't want to play for Quinn. They don't want to play for Gallant. They don't want to play for Laviolette. Who do these guys want to play for? I just named three different coaches of vastly different backgrounds. They all have vastly different personalities, different systems, different levels of success in the NHL. Quinn was a head coach for the first time, and the Rangers don't want to play for any of them. So what kind of a coach do these guys want to play for? Who's their guy? Who's the person that's going to get these guys to, like, you know, forecheck a little bit and finish a check every once in a while and block a shot? You know, it's I don't know. Oh, boy. Somebody doesn't like Chris Drury. This is Richard Sama, who's a longtime listener here and every dayer for sure. Drury is the mastermind behind this team. All his trades have been terrible. Drury must be fired. Drury's worst stretch of his tenure as Ranger GM has been his most recent stretch. The last year and a half, I think, has been really, really rough for Chris Drury. He has made some good moves. I think that this is going to go down as like his magnum opus as the Ranger GM. It was the first year that the Rangers were good again, the first year of Gerard Gallant, when he got to the trade deadline that year, and he managed to acquire Vetrano. See if I can remember all of them. Vetrano, Kopp, Mott, and who was the defenseman? Justin Braun. He brought in all four of them while not giving up really a whole lot. I mean, the Kopp trade, you had to give up 2 second-rounders. One was conditional, which I believe became a first. But, man, those guys all fit like a glove, and they were this close to making it to the Stanley Cup final that season. So that was good. But, yeah, the last, like, year and a half, the way he's handled some situations, the moves that he's made, the moves that he hasn't made, you know, at the very timid trade deadline last year for Chris Drury when the Rangers really had a chance to do some damage and win it all. It hasn't been good, and it hasn't been good this season. Will he get fired? I don't think he's going to. I think Peter Laviolette's probably toast after the season, but I think Drury is probably sold Dolan on this idea that they can retool this team and get back to being a contender next season. And I guess that's at least possible, but this mess that the Rangers are in right now, Drury has to answer for a lot of that. It's not all on him. It's not all on any one person. You know, this is a team effort for a terrible season. Whether it's Drury, Laviolette, the coaching staff, or all these underachieving players, it's one for all and all for one. They've all combined to give us a season that has fallen light years short of expectations. Mike Panic says, all those blue shirts in that building, and this is the response they get. Yeah, there were a lot of Ranger fans there. I mean, even by, like, you know, Rangers at Devils standards, where the Ranger fans tend to invade that building anyway, there were a lot of, you know, loud. The few instances where something good would happen for the Rangers, there were some decent crowd responses for that. T says, I saw Chris Kreider. He was in his usual spot at the end of the period, waiting for the players to exit. He was staring off into space. Why? Because that's what he does. Yeah, I talked about this a few episodes back. You know, Kreider is there during the intermission, standing next to the door. Everybody's going through, and he's fist bumping everybody. I swear to God, the guy never makes eye contact with anybody, never says anything to anybody, just stands there with his fist. I can't even, like, get my face to be that blank. Let me try for a second. Hold on, because I'm all fired up doing this episode. I got to try a way to, like, remove my soul from my body here to try to be Chris Kreider. Okay, here we go. That's Chris Kreider for anybody watching on YouTube. That's Chris Kreider fist bumping his teammates as they leave the ice. Why even bother? You're not doing anything. You're not saying anything to anybody. You're not making eye contact. You know, a leader of the team should be pumping his guys up a little bit. Chris, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. I'm sorry. Hividson? Chris Hividson. I've been a fan for all 24 years of my life, and this is the first time I actually feel defeated as a fan, completely let down. What even is this? That's the $1 million question, and I'm sorry you're going through that, man. It's we're all in this together, though. And Chris goes on to say, I blame Drury. He's been garbage since he traded Pavel Buchnevich for Sammy Blais. Tired of the excuses for that bum. Again, not everything he's done has been terrible. He's made some good moves. He's made some good trades. He's made some good free agent signings. But, I mean, I think certainly probably overall and definitely in recent history, the bad has far outweighed the good for Chris Drury. The last year and a half has been absolutely atrocious. Stephanie Joe says, so sad that Sam Rosen won't get to call a playoff game in his final season. Yeah, that's rough. You know, it's rough for everybody. You feel for Sam Rosen, though. I mean, that guy bleeds Ranger blue. He's as big of a fan as any of us. And I think a lot of us have really enjoyed his work over the years. And to your point, yeah, I mean, you can't possibly think at this point that this team is going to make the playoffs. Let's check that Montreal Canadiens score while we're on the subject here. Where are they? Okay, so they won 3-2. The Flyers, I guess, scored a goal, but doesn't matter because the Canadiens won, and they are now 4 points ahead of the Rangers in the playoff standings. And I think that's now 4 wins in a row for Montreal, if I'm not mistaken. Dave Delsano says, I cannot imagine having to do this podcast the past 3 months. This team is an utter disgrace. Past 3 months? How about the entire season, man? No, don't get. I love doing this podcast, man. It's a blast, and look, there's always something to talk about, if it's good or bad, and it's been bad lately. But I'm still having fun doing this. As bad as this team has been, it was more fun last season. I can definitely put it that way. We'll do a couple more, and then we'll call. Let me scroll down to the bottom here. Who else didn't I get to here? Mode 85 says, and Drury and Dolan are still being advised from a fishing boat in Banff, Alberta. What? That might be where Dolan, I mean, who knows what Dolan's doing? He's probably at the Knicks game or something, but yeah, I don't know. Matt Sheridan says, there's no reason for Kreider to care at this point. He's on his way out. See, but that's kind of like my whole point here is like, whatever happened to like, I'll show this guy, right? You know, we had that memo that went out early in the season where the Rangers, you know, that they're playing bad. They weren't even like really in the toilet at that point. That was still to come, but they weren't playing all that great, and something just seemed off. And Drury sends out that memo about looking to shake up the core, looking to trade one of Trouba or Kreider. Their two names were at or near the top of the list. And of course, they did trade Trouba, and Kreider did not get traded and made it through the trade deadline as well. I think he's a goner in the offseason. But whatever happened to like, you see something like that or you hear something like that, and you know what? Let's show Chris Drury. Let's just shove this right in his face, because we're going to come back in the next game like our heads are on fire, and we're going to just be bats out of hell on the ice, and we're going to show this guy that, no, you're not going to trade any of us. You're going to keep this core together, and we're going to push forward, and we're going to get through this thing. Whatever happened to that? Everybody on this team seemed to just sulk after that memo went out, really. I mean, they weren't playing great up to that, but once that happened, all these guys basically just kind of quit. And, you know, I think if you're Dolan, I mean, who knows what goes through his head, but if you're Dolan, I think you have to recognize, and you can't let players control you like this, but very clearly, these players can't stand Chris Drury. I think that's pretty obvious at this point. And again, to me, when you've got a coach or a GM in this case who is just a complete pain, and you think he's going over the top with you and going overboard in his criticisms of you, and obviously this memo going public and looking to shake up the core, again, whatever happened to let's show this guy? You guys all played sports. A lot of you played sports. Some of you are probably still playing sports. If you've ever had a coach like that was tough on you, didn't you want to just like shove it in his face and show him what was up? Whatever happened to that? I think that stuff still does exist, but it doesn't exist with this Ranger team. That mindset is nowhere to go. Rod Schaefer says, where are the post-game quotes? Are they too cowardly? No, they talked to the media. Some of them did. I mean, Adam Fox was there, and not every player is available after every game. Mika talked. Apparently, he was upset. Figure we can pretty much call it there. I'll hang around in the comment section for a while once we turn this off here. But I do want to thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. Like I said, this was a very special live edition. We went kind of long here, almost closing in on 50 minutes here. So I do appreciate you guys sticking with me, not just tonight, but, obviously throughout this entire season. And there are, how many games left? 6 games left. 6 games left. Rangers will be lucky to win 2 of them looking at this schedule. Lightning, Flyers, Islanders, Canes, Panthers, Lightning. You tell me the Rangers are going to win more than 2 of those games. I'll believe it when I see it. But we'll call it there. Once again, if you guys would like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @jchick17. Once again, that is @jchik17. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.